it was incredible because we brought the Institute for Health and Aging, which I was very much a part of then and now, together and sat around a table with her, and were basically all available to do anything, carry forward in our various ways, any kind of technical assistance or support that she could have, and it was a wonderful experience. But out of that, we created a Maggie Kuhn Senior Scholars Program, which is very small but supports older persons of active, empowered commitment who want to come and work in a university setting and really fertilize our brains in very, very important ways, and leading to social change and mechanisms and social movements issues. So at UCSF, where I am, Brooke Hollister, who is here, who is vice chair of the Gray Panthers National Board, and was my graduate student for 6 years, 4 years, 5 years, 4. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great buster. Great buster. Is here and wants to say a few things, but she and my other students developed something called Students for Social Security when Bush came out with his 60-day step to privatize Social Security, and Brooke was the national project director of that, and we did have very quick, timely funding from a couple of sources that enabled us to do quite a bit, and we were creating speak-ins and speak-outs and buying ads in school newspapers, college and university newspapers about the problems and perils of privatization. We also created something together called Concerned Scientists and Aging, which has morphed into a larger Google groups on Social Security, which is a very lively sort of insiders academic dialogue about all the terrible things that are being proposed for Social Security. Brooke, you want to come up and give us the...
Finally, we have our intergenerational.
Now you know why I was invited. Of course, it's great to be such part of such a great legacy. And the Concerned Scientists and Aging, many of them are a part of a coalition of organizations. I think there's about 300 to 400 organizations that are part of a Social Security Works coalition. So if you're interested in that kind of advocacy, that's how you can become involved, socialsecurityworks.org. And I know that you guys want me to do the Gray Panthers growl, and we can close with that, but I also want to talk a little bit about the Gray Panthers as they are now. We're certainly alive and still growling. Intergenerational, we're still advocating for economic and social justice and peace, which includes every injustice under the sun. So we are a multi-issue organization, which makes us unique, and I think is an argument to why the Gray Panthers are especially needed, because it points out how injustices are interconnected and doesn't take one issue at a time. After Maggie's passing, the organization struggled, and like most nonprofits, it continues to struggle financially. But there are some really exciting things happening, and we're evolving as an organization. Glenn Beck featured us on his wall of conspiracies, which, I will wear as a badge of honor. So we're still being called socialists. That hasn't changed. Now I know one of the stories behind that. But we're also becoming more prominent online and trying to do as much online advocacy as possible, because it's a great way to spend scarce resources and you can have a large impact. So you can follow us on Facebook or on Twitter. We have a website. We do e-action alerts. It's www.graypanthers.org. We have a YouTube channel, which this video will be posted on. And then we have 2 actions on Friday and Saturday. So if you're still in town or interested, Friday is a National Day of Online Advocacy. I'll put these flyers up in the back. You know, you can participate online or in person. We're going to have something at the UCSF campus. Instructions are on the flyer. But it's essentially to help raise the virtual voice of the Gray Panthers and to extend our message of social and economic justice and peace. And then on Saturday, we're having a fundraiser reception. I'll also have these in the back. It's a fundraiser reception and awards ceremony, and we're actually handing out some social justice awards to some very special people, including Carroll Estes, Mark Leno, Charlotte Flynn, and Susan Marini, who's the current executive director of the Gray Panthers, and that's on Saturday at 4:30. So thank you. That's all I have to say. You guys want to close and then?
Oh, well, we're still gonna.
Yeah, why don't we,
Yeah.
to get the audience involved, and then maybe we can do the growl to make sure everybody leaves here energetic.
So, and many of you have your own Maggie stories or your own Gray Panther stories, or maybe you're making connections, and we'd love to hear that.
Or any questions?
Any questions, too? Yes, any comment?
Sure. Just a couple of things I wanted to share. I'm Laura Hensey Russell, and I had the good fortune of meeting Carroll and Brooke and some other great people here, I don't know, 5 years ago, when I was launching the Elder Economic Security Standard, which has now become a national model. And I guess I wanted to say, I feel like I come home when I come to this workshop, although, what have I spent? An hour with you guys, whatever. But it just resonates that, my whole life has been guided by trying to combine economics and ethics, which our system, I think, has rendered apart. And so I just had a few things I wanted to share. One, I'm always thinking about, current and rebranding, but I think maybe you might think about a slight tweaking of the Gray Panthers name. And so you were talking, I was thinking, Rainbow Panthers, Grizzly Panthers, Gray Grizzly, something that shoots you back up into the forefront. And it's, well, Rainbow, that was us, 20 years ago now, so maybe it's the Grizzly Panthers. I mean, it's got some resonance to it, so I just sort of throw that out. And then a couple things I wanted to just mention. There's a report that I think helps combine some of the sort of critique called Lifelines for Elders Living on the Edge, which I did a couple of years ago. And it's posted as a resource for a workshop yesterday called We Can End Elder Homelessness, and one for tomorrow that's older adult children with older adults with dependent adult children, concerns, policy gaps, and compassionate solutions. And there's one thing that has uncovered, which is just horrific, if I can take a minute, because I think the people in this room can solve it within 32 days. But 32 years ago, when the, whatever the act was that created Medicaid and the long-term care piece of Medicaid, and the rules about spouses and community spouses and dependents, I can only guess, and you may know, Paul, you were a lawyer at Follies at that time, that there were a bunch of mostly men who didn't realize that people die. So they wrote this law so that basically, if there's an elder who goes into a nursing home and they have a spouse, the spouse gets an asset waiver and a living allowance. And if there's the two parents living and there's a dependent adult child, there's also a living allowance for that child. However, if the other spouse is dead and they're a widower and they have a dependent adult child, there's no living allowance for that person. And they become a virtual orphan. And I've been working sort of as I catch can to try to get that fixed. My own rep is Barney Frank, and John Kerry's office, they committed verbally staff to write legislation during the fall recess. They didn't get around to it. I've since linked up with Martha Rarity, and I want to link up with all of you, your son, all of your senators and reps. It's such an outrage, and it should be fixed. If it's been broken for 32 years, I think they should fix it in 32 days. And I think, I invite you all to get educated on that.
Maybe you can send us, I just got somebody's email address where we can just
Right.
use it.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.